This was supposed to be out the day before Memorial Day, my year anniversary of the channel. But as you all know, I'm lazy and I never get shit out on time. So now is the time that it's happening, because then Memorial Day happened and then Recovery Day after that, and it was a whole thing. But the first video I ever did on this channel was Ginger Snaps with Catherine Isabel and Emily Perkins, which I'm not a big werewolf guy. I was just talking to Carrie about this. There's a few of, obviously American Werewolf in London, The Howling. Some of the Howling sequels are kind of fun. Kind of. American Werewolf in Paris, actually, I kind of enjoy too. The original Universal Monsters, Wolfman. That's Bad Moon is another good one that's pretty underrated. But I'm not a big werewolf guy. Same with vampires, but I love a lot of vampire movies. It's just not a go-to genre for me. But werewolves even less. But for the first video for the channel, I didn't know what the hell to do. So I just went on Amazon and I just closed my eyes and just scrolled through and just stopped on something. And it was Ginger Snaps. And I said, all right, great. I love that. Good one. And then right after that, I did Fade to Black from 1980. So, but it's fitting with a year that's gone by. It's taken a year to do the sequel to Ginger Snaps. A year. But I even said in that video, I'm not doing the sequel for a while. I'm not worrying about it. But I do actually enjoy the sequel a decent amount. It's nowhere near as good as the original, of course. And then there's one after this. One or two after this. There might be a fourth one. I'm not sure. But the third one's not that good. They're like back in olden times, and Catherine Isabel's in it more. She's hardly in this movie, which, as you all know from me talking about American Mary and the Freddy versus Jason, and everything else that she's been in, I absolutely adore Catherine Isabel. And I really love Emily Perkins too, and she carries this entire film. Like, Catherine Isabel's in this movie for maybe 2 minutes as like a vision. So let's talk Ginger Snaps 2 from 2004? Yeah, 2004. Now, obviously, spoilers for the whole first movie, that should go without saying. But we know at the end that both Brigitte and Ginger had the werewolf gene and stuff, or infected. It's like an infection in this series. So Ginger ended up dying because Brigitte stabbed her in self-defense, and then she was a wreck after that because these sisters were inseparable. And now Brigitte is trying to stop herself from becoming a werewolf by injecting herself with the wolfsbane from the first movie. So a lot of this does not make sense. All this movie, there is some stuff in here that is just beyond stupid. But I don't know. I have a soft spot for the sequel. Maybe it's Emily. It's definitely a huge part of it is Emily Perkins' performance as Brigitte. Like, I loved her in the first movie, but she does such a great job here. Like, she really does. Does she do an excellent performance? No. I mean, there's still a decent amount of overacting and stuff from her. But I don't know. Maybe it's just her personality and stuff. I love seeing that character. And she does a great job throughout this. So Brigitte is taken into a mental institution because they think that she is a drug addict and that she's injecting herself with some type of drug, until they find out later on that it's wolfsbane. It's just some fucking herb, and then they don't know what to think about her. Monkshood, not wolfsbane. Luckily, the opening credits, if you couldn't remember a movie back then when it came out 4 years prior, they give you a whole voiceover synopsis from the first movie. Apparently I needed it because it's not wolfsbane. It's the other goddamn thing. This librarian dude, he's I forget the actor's name, but he's the guy from Freddy vs. Jason, the friend of the main character. And not saying Emily Perkins isn't a pretty woman at all, but they made her up a lot more in this movie. Like, if you remember in the first movie, like they made her down a decent amount just to make her, I guess, the weird one between her and Ginger. And Ginger was obviously supposed to be the pretty one. They made her look a lot more dolled up here, and it's cool because she's a cute girl. Unless becoming a werewolf and shit like increases your attractiveness and your physical being and everything. I don't know. I'm not a werewolf. Never met one. Down. I didn't mean it. Like I said, Isabel's not in this really, Ginger, at all. But you hear voiceovers from her, like in Brigitte Ted, and then you see her like laying in bed with her, but she's not really there. So she's in this movie for like I said, a few minutes at the most. And Bridget is keeping a diary of every time that she doses with monkshood to make sure that, and it's not a cure, as Ginger reminds her, it just slows the transformation down. When they do take her into the asylum, though, I don't blame them, man, because she does look like a junkie. She is so skinny and shit. Now, this is something I've never understood. Maybe someone who's seen this can shed light on it. Who is this werewolf who's after her? Like, throughout this movie. Ginger says right at the beginning here, when she's in Bridget's head, saying that he's found you. Then there's a werewolf attack that kills the librarian dude, Freddy vs. Jason guy. And then she wakes up in the mental institution. And then we see that werewolf again. So who is this? Is it that dickhead from the first movie? That's what I'm thinking. Because the monks didn't cure him. Because, like they just said, it's not a cure. So maybe he turned into a werewolf finally, and he's chasing after her. That's the only thing I can think of, because they never mention directly who this werewolf is, who's following Bridget and like has been tracking her this whole time. So I have no clue. If anyone has any other ideas or theories, or maybe I just miss something every time I see this, let me know in the comments. And I've said this a few times on the channel before, but one of the scariest things in the world for me, like one of my biggest fears, is being held somewhere against your will that you can't get out. Every time that I see a movie, or I just talked about this on American Horror Story Asylum on the podcast, terrifying. Like, I don't like asylums. From, like, as if you can tell, if you've heard me talk about this, anything to do with someone being stuck into an asylum when they're not crazy and there's no way for them to get out, that is so scary to me. That and just losing your mind. Just losing touch with reality. My two biggest fears in life. So, I mean, automatically gets some type of scary points just for that. It sucks and it's heartbreaking, but it's funny. Like with the head bitch at this place. Everyone is a dickhead who works here. Especially there's that real douchebag guy who's like just trying to fuck Bridget, and like he's getting blowjobs from other inmates. Not inmates. Crazy people. Like, there's some despicable characters in here. And then we find out later the evil little girl, that little bitch, and all the stuff that she's done and tries to do. I think it's her grandma, her aunt, or something like that. We find out later that she burnt her house, like set her house on fire, and that's what burned her aunt to a crisp. And that's why she's in this place, and she's wrapped in bandages. It's an evil kid, man. And of course, first thing to try, like Bridget does, is run. Try to get out of here. But of course you're not getting out of here. Of course, unless it's a movie where you're supposed to, and the plot demands it. That's the only time in a movie anyone ever escapes from a mental institution, is if they have to. The story says so. Otherwise, you're not getting out. And in real life, you're not getting out. But at least try, right? I mean, what's the worst they can do? Throw you in an asylum? Since there is a break, announcement for June. Happy June 1st, everybody. And it is now J-Horror June. So I will be covering a bunch of Japanese horror, which I'm not a huge fan of, but definitely the Ringu movies, the Ju-On the Grudge, maybe the sequels, I don't know. Dark Water, Audition, House, there'll be a decent amount of ones. So that'll be fun to go through, to travel to Japan before the beginning of summer. There's always one cunt in in the group that has to, in movies like this, who has to just speak out and be a bitch for no reason because she's just a bitch. So this woman is talking and like shedding tears and like letting all her emotions out. And this woman's like to the counselor, she's like, if she doesn't shut up, I'm gonna make her drink her piss again. I want to see that scene. Where's that? This girl made this other woman drink her piss. How did that come about on that piss thing? You can't tell us something like that. Give us a line and not show us. That's so. I like how the counselor during at the end of the session writes down Brigitte lesbian with a question mark. That's so funny. Yeah, I'm not an expert, but I'm guessing one thing you're not supposed to ever say while you're in a mental institution is if you keep me here, people are gonna die. Right to the head director. If you like expensive ass fucking clothing just because it has the brand Old Navy on it, go to Old Navy and waste your money. Then the guy takes her to her room and he says, just so you know, threats are a big no no with Alice, the director. Threats are a big no no with the police, too. Like, the fact they don't fucking call the cops as soon as she says that is beyond ridiculous. Where the guy, the orderly, brings and tells the toxicology report to Alice and says that she has no drugs in her system. Only this plant extract, and says this monkshood that it's totally illegal, totally accessible. You can find it in craft stores, and it is the same thing as wolfsbane. That's what this fucker says. So I didn't screw up early. Right then and there, they should release this person. I mean, I guess, yeah, like the cuts on her arm, because when she first was brought in after that werewolf attack, she had cuts on her arm. So they're going to hold her just for that. But, I mean, once they evaluate her and see she's not suicidal, by that time they're going to be eaten by a werewolf because too much time's going to go by. The little evil bitch kid, she is like a horror nerd and she has like horror comics and stuff like hidden behind her burnt up whatever aunt's bed in the hospital here. And she starts reading there and she starts looking and she sees like Wolfsbane or Monk's Hood in like a werewolf comic. So she's on to Brigitte and she thinks that she's a werewolf. Even though this guy's a complete douchebag, the head orderly guy. He comes in with the monk's hood and the vial of it, and he says, like, she asks if you're going to give that to me. He says, yeah. He's like, but I get to pick where, like, to inject it. I get to inject it right above her pussy. And she's like, no. But I like, despite him being a dick, I like his whole little, when she says why, and he's like, I bet you were one of those girls who always asked your mom why. Like, why is it cold? Mom, why is it cold out? Like, Mom, why does this happen? Like, because she does seem like that type of person. Then, like, all the patients, all these bitchy girls are throwing pennies at the little evil girl. This girl looks like she's ready to kill these people. She's like shaking. She's squeezing the glue bottle and glue shooting out. Like, she looks like furious. But then Bridget, like, gets up. She's like, I can't see the TV. And then she puts this fucking girl in her place. And then this girl thinks that she's a werewolf for sure. And Bridget denies it, of course. She's still cutting herself to see how fast she heals and stuff, to see how fast she's progressing. And she's still writing down like when she injected and stuff like that. So like they're not going to search her room ever. Like, they're not going to find her book. They're not going to maybe go through it, see that she's jogging that down, be like, how are you injecting that shit here? I mean, like I said, this is some stupid shit. The evil girl is in Bridget's room with her, and she sees her ear start to get like pointy and werewolfy. And she ends up like freaking out. Bridget's like, get the hell out of here and stuff. And then you see Ginger in the mirror again for a little bit. She's in this a little more than I remembered. Like, it's definitely more than 2 minutes, but less than 5 for sure. But always good to see her. And I haven't seen the third movie in over a decade, maybe. Pretty sure it's Ginger Snaps, the beginning. She's in that a lot more, if I recall correctly. Like, that's like Catherine Isabel and Emily Perkins together again, like, for the whole movie. And it goes, like, back to the 1700s or some shit. I don't know. It's not good. On that next year. So then the girl tells Bridget she knows where Tyler, I think the guy, the dickhead, keeps her stash and stuff. And then they're going to try to go and steal it. And then they get caught by him in the bathroom, and he just like squirts all of it out of the syringe and shit. She's furious. I'm not a professional in mental health. I've said many times on this channel, never take any type of medical advice. From anything I say or theorize, you will die. Like 1000%. But I'm pretty sure they're only allowed to give you a 72-hour hold or 48-hour hold for if you have cuts on yourself. Once they analyze you, they can't keep her here for rehab if she has no drugs in her system. If she has no illegal drugs in her system, if she has, yeah, she's shooting up some plant material. It's not illegal. Fuck you. You can put whatever you want in your body. So, like, I don't know how seems so ridiculous. The whole premise here, it is what it is, though. I mean, we wouldn't have a movie, of course. But this whole scene here with them all, it's in Brigitte's head, but they're all laying down with the counsel, like, not with the counselor's in the room, but they're all laying down on a mat, and you think they're going to do, like, yoga or some shit, but then they all start masturbating. They all start touching themselves and rubbing themselves. It's so weird. It's so out there. I don't know what the hell this scene was thrown in here for.
You don't know my name, do you?
Yes, I do.
What is it?
It rhymes with a female body part. Oh! Oh! Dolores!
The counselor, she's like, experiment with rhythm. So fucking ridiculous. So she's progressing with her transformation because during this whole masturbation sequence, she's like imagining like body parts being ripped apart and stuff. So she's starting to get like the urge for human flesh and stuff. So she's in trouble, without a doubt. And then she like has like, it's a cool little practical effect with like the wolf hand. And then she gets up, freaks out, and she runs out the room. Everyone's looking at her like she's crazy, not helping her case much to get out of here, I may say. To that scene, she goes to the bathroom and she's got hairy palms. That's hilarious. Some pointless thing with a dog that the little evil kid takes care of and that lives on the premises. And that's another thing. Why does this girl live at a mental institution? Just because her aunt is burnt up? Maybe she has no one else, but I mean, they take her and put her in the system. Like, she's not just hanging out and living at a mental institution, a kid, and she's not, like, committed there. There's no way that this girl is just living here. There's no way. So none of that makes sense at all. But she finds the dog dead, and, like, it's just its head, and she thinks that at first Brigitte did it, and she's like, I did not do that. And then she ends up telling her that she can get her out of here, that she knows a way out. Never trust children, man. They're evil. Every single one of them. Except my daughter, baby. If you ever see this in the future, you know I love you. Besides that, children, evil. So Bridget's like trying to find her way out, and she bumps into this girl who's blowing Tyler, the douchebag guy, for like coke or something like that. And the crazy shit that goes on in these places. So the werewolf that, again, we don't know who it is. I'm guessing it's the guy from the first movie. Comes and just tears that woman apart. At least she had a nice little snort party before she got ripped apart. Yeah, she's dead. This girl's name is Ghost. I didn't hear it the first time, and I never remembered that she was just asking her, Bridget. She's like, Ghost, what are you doing? Her name is Ghost. Come on, man. That's like the kid in Return to Sleepaway Camp, which still probably one of the worst films I've seen in a long time, and one of the only rant videos early on in my channel. That's hilarious if you ever want to check that out. Return to Sleepaway Camp. There's a kid in there named Weed, and he's a pothead, so it's so on the nose and stupid. Oh god, that movie was atrocious. I was in shock how bad Return to Sleepaway Camp was. So the girl's driving. How old is this girl? I mean, she looks like she's a preteen, but whatever. She's driving the car for some reason. Bridget can't do it. I mean, she got cut up a bit, but she's moving her arms around fine when she's talking. So she could have driven. She could have driven. She could have driven. I don't know why she didn't. But they mention it here. They don't mention who the werewolf is, but she's asking, like, who is that the one who bit you? And she says, no, my sister was infected, and then I infected myself. And then she said, where is it from? The eternal darkness? And she says, more like the suburbs. So it has to be that kid. Has to be. Yeah, you know what? This is stupid, but I've said it before. Not what I'm about to say, but I've said something similar. Like in, I think it was my video for The Innkeepers by Ty West, that there's a ghost in there that haunts the place that's looking for a new lover, a female ghost who lost her husband. I said, I'd fuck the ghost. Like, come on, man, really? Just to have a story. You wouldn't be able to, you wouldn't want that? Go out to a party, someone starts saying some crazy story, and you go, you know what? I fucked a real ghost. At the peddler in wherever the hell that town is. Come on, you wouldn't do that. Same thing here with with resisting the werewolf thing. I'd just become the werewolf. But why not? Go around mauling motherfuckers left and right. You hear like Wolverine. Come on, man. How do you pass that up? I mean, life gets boring sometimes. Shake it up. She says ghost here. She says that her aunt or whatever, I still don't know who she is. She gets money, or Alice, the director, sorry, it's not her aunt. Alice, the director, gets money for keeping Ghost at the hospital. Again, how? I have no idea how this works. Tubi wants me to tell you, if you like beer and you're trying to watch your weight, get Corona, only 90 calories. Can't go wrong with that. Ghost's relative, Barbara, is her name, whatever she is. She's showing pictures because they go to her house or something, and they're showing pictures to Brigitte. She showed her drawings of her that like she took, and she said she took all her nerve endings off her skin and stuff so she can't feel pain. And it's sad when you hear it at first, like before you know that this girl did it, and then we get the whole revelation, which who cares about this revelation? This has nothing to do with the movie. It has nothing to do with Ginger. It has nothing to do with Brigitte. Finding out that this girl burnt her aunt alive? So what? Like, what does that have to do with anything in this movie? Like, I've never understood that. This is such a dumb inclusion. It's just there to pad the runtime, in my opinion. I mean, I guess maybe she doesn't live full time at the asylum, at the institution, the mental place. I mean, maybe she has a house here, but again, no one, the state is not letting a young kid like this live alone at a house by herself with her relative, her guardian in the hospital. The effects on Bridget's arm after Tyler, because they picked Tyler up, the dickhead, and he injects her with the monk's hood. The effects on her arm, like pus coming out, and it's like starting to like get all messed up looking. It's throbbing. That looks great. Like, cool effect there. Yeah, I really like Emily's performance in this as Bridget. Like, she doesn't overact as much as I remember. It's fine. Like, she does a good performance here. Also, all the makeup effects on her near the end here when she's really starting to like transform in the face. All looks really cool. And the werewolf looks alright. Like the one that finally gets in and tries killing them. Doesn't look as good as the one in the first movie, and that one didn't even look that great. It is what it is, though. It looks fine. Man, werewolves are weak as shit in these movies. It jumps on Bridget. She takes like some like pan or something, or just starts beating it left and right in the face, and then she just smashes its skull in. Like, these are not strong werewolves. Like, we see that in the first movie. I mean, she killed her sister, Ginger, just by one stab wound. But I like that, actually, about these movies, is that it's a different take on the whole werewolf mythology. It's no silver bullet, and they call that out in the first movie. They say, forget everything about like what we've seen in movies and TV shows and stuff. There's no silver bullets. None of that works. So I like how they switch it up a bit. Still some stupid shit here, though. And then Alice comes, the director, and they're trying to barricade themselves upstairs and trying not to get eaten. And then it just ends with there's a banner, welcome home Barbara, so her burnt up relative is coming home. And she pushes Bridget down into the cellar and locks her in there. And then she's drawing a little comic and talking, like, or thinking to herself that, like, it's her and her faithful companion, the werewolf. So it's implied, I guess, that she's bringing her relative home to feed her to Bridget in the basement. And then they say that's when Ghost's reign of mortal terror begins. So she just goes out and starts murdering people with her pet werewolf. I don't know, man. It's still fun. It's a fun one for sure. And this is a year in the making. So, again, the next movie, next year, possibly. Probably not. Take care, guys.